Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're immersing ourselves in a really fascinating collection of sources centered on, well, one of the 20th century's most profound spiritual architects,
Mm.
Paramahansa Yogananda.
hmm
He is, of course, the author of Autobiography of a Yogi, and he really serves as this bridge, doesn't he, between ancient Eastern spiritual science and modern Western psychological thought.
That's absolutely right. And our mission today is maybe to go a bit beyond just the bestseller status and really unpack the extraordinary claims and also the practical teachings embedded in this material.
Right.
We're looking at how he framed ancient yogic science, not just philosophy, but as a repeatable, almost scientific path toward accelerated human consciousness.
We're talking foundational techniques like Kriya Yoga, these astonishing biographical accounts of saints who could apparently materialize objects or live without food.
Incredible stories.
Yeah, and how these concepts, perhaps surprisingly, seem to intersect with things like quantum physics. We have a lot to cover, so let's dive right into Yogananda's initial mission.
His influence was truly immense, crossing all sorts of societal boundaries. The sources note how his teachings spread quite quickly into education, psychology, business, even medicine,
Always aiming for that more holistic view.
consistently aiming for a more holistic, integrated, and fundamentally spiritual vision of life.
Yes. What really stands out immediately is his deliberate strategy, this idea of uniting the best of East and West. It wasn't just like a cultural exchange program.
No, no, much more than that. It was envisioned as a practical partnership.
Yeah.
He argued that India needed the West's focus on material development, efficiency,
Uh-huh.
while in return, India could gift the West with these universal scientific methods, yogic science,
Yeah.
that were needed to anchor religious beliefs in something tangible, in personal experience.
And this beautiful struggle maybe between the material and the spiritual, the head and the heart.
hmm
It actually shows up right in his own family life. There's that wonderful story you mentioned about his parents.
Oh, it's highly relatable, isn't it? You have his father, who's very prudent, budget-minded, questioning the immediate giving of 10 rupees to a poor woman. He's recalling his own youthful poverty, caution.
Makes sense.
But then his mother responds with what Yogananda later called heart logic. She just asks, do you want this woman also to remember painfully your refusal?
Ah. And the father, the sort of vanquished husband,
Mhm.
he just has to concede. That balance of reflection and generous intuition, it seems crucial. And it's reflected later, isn't it, in the institution he founded?
Precisely. When he started the Yogoda Satsanga Brahmacharya Vidyalaya at Ranchi in 1918, it wasn't just a purely religious school, far from it.
Okay.
It focused intensely on moral and spiritual values alongside rigorous academic and vocational subjects, often taught outdoors, apparently.
Really? Following the old ways?
Yeah, following the ancient ideal of the rishis, but applying it to a modern curriculum, ensuring that balance was built right in.
Speaking of rigor, and maybe mastery, the ultimate testament to his mastery, according to these sources, is the very end of his life. The material makes an extraordinary claim about his final exit, his Mahasamadhi, linking it directly to Kriya Yoga mastery.
It does.
What exactly did the officials, like the Los Angeles mortuary director, document?
Well, this is one of the most compelling pieces of documentation we have in the whole collection. Harry T. Rowe, the mortuary director from Forest Lawn in Los Angeles, he issued an official notarized statement,
Right.
and it stated that Yogananda's body showed absolutely no physical signs of decay or disintegration 20 days after his passing.
20 days, no decay.
20 days. Rowe himself called it an unparalleled state of perfect preservation. The material links this phenomenal event directly to him being a perfected Kriya Yogi, a master of life force control who could consciously exit his physical body without the usual biological consequences setting in.
Okay, so since Yogananda himself was considered this perfected Kriya Yogi, let's turn our attention right there. What exactly is Kriya Yoga? Why is breath mastery the central secret?
Kriya Yoga is presented really as the master key, the instrument through which human evolution can be quickened, dramatically so.
How?
The core concept the ancient yogis apparently discovered is that the constant, subtle demands of breath, they absorb the life force, the prana, and this keeps the soul anchored to the mortal body.
Right.
So by mastering, slowing, and eventually, stilling the breath, you free up that life force for higher consciousness, for spiritual activity.
And the sources provide a really interesting biological comparison to help make this relatable.
They do, yeah. They connect fixity of attention or lack thereof directly to respiratory rate. Think about it. The restless monkey breathes around 32 times per minute, very scattered.
Huh.
Now compare that to the giant tortoise. known for incredible longevity, sometimes living up to 300 years. It breathes only about 4 times per minute.
Wow, huge difference.
Huge. So the goal of Kriya, essentially, is to untie that cord of breath that binds the soul to the body. That's the poetic phrasing used.
This expansion of consciousness,
Hmm.
it's directly related to how Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, explained the structure of human existence. He said it wasn't just one body, but 3 successive envelopes or layers. Can we break those down?
Certainly. It starts with the causal body. You can think of this as the blueprint.
No.
It's the realm of ideas, pure will, blissful new knowledge.
Okay, the blueprint.
Then, wrapped around that is the subtle astral body. This is described as being made of lifetrons.
Lifetrons. What exactly are those supposed to be?
They're described as minute, highly subtle energy particles, think maybe finer than electrons or protons. And this astral body is the seat of our mental and emotional natures.
Got it. Mental, emotional. And the last one.
Finally, we have the gross physical body, which is the physical shell we know, made of, they say, 16 gross elements operating through our 5 senses.
Right.
When a soul successfully sheds that whole cocoon of the 3 bodies, the sources say it merges back into the cosmic ocean of bliss, liberation.
So if the ultimate goal is this cosmic merging, this liberation through self-effort,
Yeah.
where does that leave concepts like fate or destiny? Sri Yukteswar had some strong and maybe surprising opinions about astrology.
His teaching here was incredibly empowering, actually. He taught that astrology merely studies our responses to planetary stimuli, positive and negative radiations,
Okay.
which serves as a lawful channel for the outward operation of cause-effect equilibriums. Basically, karma playing out.
So if your karma leads you to face difficult planetary influences, you're just stuck, doomed.
Not at all. That's the key. He maintained that the wise person defeats his planets, or you could say defeats his past karma by transferring allegiance, moving it from the creation, the effects, to the creator, the source. The soul, he insisted, is inherently free. It cannot be regimented by stars or past actions forever. It means even if you accept karma or astrological influence, you always have the active choice to transcend it. You shift from being a victim of circumstance to a victor through self-mastery.
That explains the philosophy, sure, but
Yeah.
why did Sri Yukteswar sometimes advise students to wear certain bangles or specific gems? If the soul is free, why bother with these physical countermeasures?
Good question. He apparently used these items not as magic charms, but to harness specific electromagnetic influences to help harmonize the body's energies.
Okay.
But crucially, the sources say he also used them to divert attention from himself. He was powerful enough to heal people directly through his own will.
Right.
But he humbly cloaked his spiritual powers, making it seem like the jewel or the bangle was responsible, not him, taking the focus off his own persona.
That desire to minimize personal display, that humility, it seems to be a common thread in these sources, even when they're describing figures whose lives sound almost mythological. Let's move to some of these phenomenal saints. Tell us about Giribala, the non-eating saint of Bengal.
Giribala. Yes. She claimed to have lived without eating or drinking for over 5 decades. Just think about that. That story almost defies modern credibility.
Completely.
Yeah.
How did she explain sustaining herself? What was her rationale?
Well, her explanation was completely consistent with the yogic science we've been discussing. She stated her nourishment came from the finer energies of the air and sunlight,
Okay.
and cosmic power that recharges your body through the medulla oblongata. That's identified as the 6th spinal center, located at the base of the brain, the point where cosmic energy is said to enter the body.
Interesting.
She saw her life, essentially, as a demonstration, proof that man is spirit and can learn to live by eternal light, not just by physical sustenance.
That suggests a complete mastery over the physical laws we just take for granted. Another figure, Trailangaswami, also seems to have pushed the boundaries of the body in Benares.
Trailangaswami was legendary, truly. He maintained habitual silence for much of his life, could apparently go weeks without food, and witnesses claimed to see him levitating on the Ganges.
Wow.
Lahiri Masaya, who knew him, characterized him simply as a divine kitten, someone who achieved perfect self-realization while renouncing absolutely everything, even apparently his loincloth at times. He just chose to operate outside normal physical limitations to demonstrate the potential of a realized human being.
And speaking of Lahiri Masaya, his own initiation into Kriya Yoga by his guru, the mysterious Babaji, involved what sounds like the ultimate materialization miracle.
This is perhaps the most, let's say, audacious claim in the entire autobiography. Babaji, the deathless avatar who is said to maintain his physical form for centuries.
Right, the Mahavatar.
Yes, he supposedly materialized a magnificent jewel-encrusted golden palace right there in the Himalayas.
Shit, poof.
Well, materialized it. He did this specifically to initiate Lahiri Mahasaya into Kriya Yoga, but also apparently to satisfy and extinguish a deep subconscious desire Lahiri Mahasaya harbored from a past life for such splendor, sort of burning out that last bit of attachment.
Wow. Okay, sounds like pure mythology. But the sources frame this as solidifying cosmic rays. For listeners who need a bridge to make that digestible, what explanation does the text offer? How could that even work?
Babaji's own explanation was strikingly simple, almost matter of fact, he said. The whole cosmos is merely a projected thought of the creator.
A projected thought.
Yes. So if the entire universe is fundamentally made of thought or consciousness or subtle energy, then a highly realized being, someone perfectly attuned to the creator, can manipulate the energetic frequency of these cosmic rays. They can solidify them into tangible physical matter like a golden palace. It's mind over matter taken to its absolute extreme.
This is really where the ancient yogic perspective starts to sound, well, suspiciously like some ideas in cutting-edge science, doesn't it? We see this connection made explicitly in the source's discussion of Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose, the great Indian scientist.
Absolutely. Yogananda highlighted Bose's work precisely because he provided experimental evidence using Western scientific methods for the yogic view of a conscious universe. Bose invented the crescograph.
Right, the crescograph. What did that actually prove, though?
It was an instrument sensitive enough, apparently, to prove the unique throb of life in all creation. Bose demonstrated experimentally that plants felt pain. They responded to chemical stimuli like chloroform, just like animals.
Okay.
He even showed that seemingly inert metals like tin reacted to stimuli. They showed fatigue, responded to poisons.
Well did.
That's what his research indicated. And this supports the core yogic understanding that all sensory stimuli, everything we perceive, are produced by vibratory variations in electrons and protons, which are themselves regulated by prana, that subtle life force.
So these miraculous phenomena we've discussed, they aren't necessarily breaking physical laws. They're just operating within a deeper, more subtle layer of scientific law.
Exactly. That's the perspective offered. It shifts the entire context. It brings the seemingly miraculous firmly into the realm of subtle science, a science where the universe, as Sir James Jeans famously said, looks more like a great thought than like a great machine. The laws aren't suspended, they're just understood and utilized at a much more subtle, energetic level than what our gross physical senses can typically perceive.
So what we've really seen here across all these sources is a profound and consistent message from these masters. The physical body, the material world, they're fundamentally malleable. Illusions or dreams, perhaps, that can be manipulated and transcended by those who've attained realization, who've attuned their individual will to the divine will.
And that takes us right back to Yogananda's foundational goal, doesn't it? His mission was to show that liberation is possible through self-effort, through systematic science, not simply through theological belief or blind faith. It's something you do.
Right. And the sources repeatedly, almost insistently, bring us back to the true measure of that progress. Spiritual advancement isn't measured by external miracles or outward displays of power,
No.
but solely by the depth of permanent peace and bliss that's found in daily sustained meditation. That's the internal proof, the only one that really matters.
That's the ultimate key takeaway, I think. Inner realization is the only valid metric. The rest is just phenomena, maybe interesting, but secondary.
So here's where it gets really interesting for you, the learner. Think about this. If the greatest spiritual masters, through their mastery of these subtle vibratory forces, understood that the cosmos is fundamentally a projected thought of the creator, and we see modern science, particularly physics, starting to echo that realization in its own language. What does that imply about the latent, untapped power of your own individual consciousness, your own thought, your own focus, to perhaps shape or influence your reality?
It's a profound question. If the universe really is more like a great thought, then perhaps our only real limitation is the depth, the clarity, and the focus of our own inner concentration.
Think about that. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.